We start part 3 right around the time of the second Impressionist exhibition with a portrait of Victor Stoquet. He was an admirer of Renoir's work around this time, and as you can see, he buys 6 paintings from the second Impressionist exhibition. He also commissions Renoir to do a large number of portraits of both him and his family. And again, I mentioned this kind of earlier, Renoir is starting to get some success outside of what we think of as the Impressionist circle, and even within the Impressionist circle we can see he's doing well, and that's not true of all of the Impressionists. He is selling work out of the Impressionist shows, and he is slowly but steadily getting a whole series of admirers and people who are starting to collect his work. Again, Victor Stoquet is a seminal figure during kind of around the second Impressionist exhibition for Renoir. This is the type of work we're going to see from the second exhibition, and this is kind of a period of Renoir's work where he really starts to play around with the concepts of colors and shadows. We see a lot of light patterns popping through tree patterns, if you will, the tops of trees, leaves, and things like that. And when you look at the woman's skin, there's a blotchiness to it from the light going through, but you can also see the different wide range of colors that we see on the nude's body. The green, of course, caused the critics to go insane. They compared her to a corpse and other concepts like this. But we're playing around with new light theories here about light and shadows not necessarily being composed of just straight black, but rather composed of a whole stream of colors. The green hues on the skin from the reflection of the light also blend very nicely in with the background greens, the vegetation that Renoir has. Here we have another painting, The Lovers, from 1875. Again, the whole range of colors. You can even see a little bit of red in the foreground. Very beautiful painting of two people together, but you'll notice her face is rather blue. Again, this concept of light separating, or shadows not necessarily showing darkness, but this whole range of colors. And they're also starting to use the idea of complementary colors quite a bit as well. You can see with the blue of her face, it's blending down into the blue of her dress. This is one of these paintings that you would almost see from the Rococo period if everyone was colored very much in flesh tones rather than the experimental impressionistic tones that we see from Renoir. But again, this is a rather normal scene that you would see from art history, especially contemporary art history. Renoir doesn't really go that far off the beaten path in terms of his compositions and what you would kind of see already from the period. Here is one of the two really famous paintings we have with Renoir using those blotches of light coming through the trees. I'm not sure who the model is, but she looks very similar to the model we just saw with The Lovers. This is the swing from 1876. If we look at the patterning on the road or the pathway, the cobblestone effect almost, and again, these aren't cobblestones, this is light cutting through different leaves and hitting different areas. Renoir is using this to a wonderful effect, showing us the range of colors that can be present with this very, very relaxed scene that you would probably have in and around one of the Paris parks with just a young couple near a swing. You can also see a small child over in the corner. Again, something that Renoir is sort of famous for, including within his compositions, always giving it a light air rather than some the seriousness that you might have from some of the other Impressionist painters. The most famous painting we have from this series and was shown in the third Impressionist exhibition, purchased by an Impressionist painter and also collector, a man by the name of Gustave Caillebotte, again a painter of some renown himself. He was one of the primary people to collect the Impressionist work. Moulin De La Galette is a dancing area. This is an area where you have young people come and just kind of dance. This is in the Montmartre area around where Renoir would be living. You can see the splotches of color, as I mentioned, from the swing coming through the trees, hitting the clothing. And if you know Renoir and you know his work, you would know that everyone we see in the foreground here is going to be somebody from Renoir's background, someone very close to him, a friend or acquaintance. He always paints people that are very intimately close. And again, as we move farther and farther back, the faces become less and less recognizable. As you might have noticed, we're moving kind of away from what we think of as the Impressionist technique and kind of more back towards this concept of realism. As we move away from the second and even the third Impressionist exhibition, we see a kind of different thing occurring with Renoir. He doesn't actually show in the fourth or fifth Impressionist exhibition. Instead, he kind of reverses course and starts showing work again in the Salon. This is a segment of doubt, if you will, within his mind as to what career choice he wants to make. I always wonder with Renoir if throughout his life he always kind of questions what he should be doing with his talent. But a very intimate scene here, a mother, we assume, with a child, and again, probably people Renoir would know. We see a very stark reality within the, not stark, but wonderful reality within the faces. And as we move farther back, we do get a little bit more of the Impressionistic technique. This is very true here in the painting from 1877, The Thinker, with those eyes being very securely fixed in reality. And again, as we move farther and farther away from that very gentle face, we see more and more of this haziness and open brushwork that we associate with Impressionism. You can also see that Renoir is really starting to master this technique. He has established kind of how he wants to present this type of new understanding of what you can do with light and also brush and how it affects the scene in general. Again, if you look at the balance of this composition, then we have this wonderful black bar at the top, but on the bottom we have this white dress to kind of create almost a yin-yang type of feel with this young lady in the middle, appropriately titled The Thinker, but we wonder, of course, what she might be thinking about. And here, as we move to 1878, we see even more reality creeping in, and even less and less of this impressionistic style that we've seen before. After the luncheon, we can see these are young socialites, probably people, again, Renoir would have to have known these people. These could be patrons. We see a gentleman here lighting a cigarette, and then in the background we have two women together. And as we follow Renoir's career forward, this is something that he kind of hones in on more and more within his compositions. The idea of not just having one woman in the painting, but two women together, and it is often the relationship between these two women that is the importance or idea behind the painting. Again, here you can see this use of white and black, this yin-yang that he's created in the center of the composition between these two women, with the woman on the left wearing, of course, white and the woman on the right being the darker. It's around this time that he starts painting the Charpentier family. Here on the left, another example of this reality phasing off into Impressionism with our first portrait of Madame Charpentier. The Charpentier family were a very wealthy, very elite family within the Paris circle. They were socialites and they were very, very famous. This created quite a good opportunity for Renoir because not only was he able to secure a large number of commissions through this family, but his work was also shown by this family, and many of the people around this family, many of the other elite people that were living in Paris at this time started to ask for Renoir to paint their portraits, mostly because of the Charpentier family. And again, as I mentioned, he's moving away from the Impressionist circle and he's moving back towards the Salon. The painting that is most famous that we have from the Charpentiers is Madame Charpentier and Her Children from 1878, and this was accepted to the Salon of 1878 and actually was very well received within the circle of the salon. When we look at this composition, we see Madame Charpentier in the center, almost the galvanizing point within the composition. Again, we see a reference to this Orientalism. In the background, we have these wall pieces that are very much inspired by the Japanese style of art. Again, very, very heavy ornamentation. The idea of these paintings isn't so much, is as much, I should say, to show the family, but also the opulence of the family. My favorite is, of course, the very large black and white dog that one of the children is sitting on top of to kind of balance out the larger dress that we see Madame Charpentier in the center of the composition. And again, as we follow that along to the next painting, we can see that Renoir is painting a wide variety of work at this time. He has not given up the Impressionistic style. What he's really kind of doing is honing a career as a salon painter, establishing portraiture and everything that one would need in order to survive as an artist, but at the very same time he continues to work in this Impressionistic style as an experiment as much as anything else. He doesn't abandon it, he just separates it from the work that he's readily selling at the salon. In his mind, I think he wants to establish a career as an artist, but again, he also wants to continue to experiment in this newer style of Impressionism that he, of course, founded with his other compatriots. If we take a moment and look at the composition, it almost forms a cross shape with the central road, again going through the middle of the canvas, and the sky and the ground bisected. By the water near the lake, again, 1880, you can see he's not abandoning the Impressionist style at all. In fact, he's almost creating a new type of style, again with our faces being fixed in reality and then moving away from it. This is a very enjoyable painting for the very wonderful brushstroke that he has within it, a very fluid brushstroke, especially in the background. Almost creates a sensation of motion as much as anything. We have this wonderful young couple in the foreground leaning on a railing, cutting through the bottom third of the canvas, and again, the top lake edge is will cut through the top third of the canvas as well, really creating a section, a three-sectional part within the canvas itself. When we look at the composition, again, very quiet, very calm, very relaxing, using very cold colors in terms of temperature, blues, greens, and purples. Here we have the portrait of Madame Fournice, again, a socialite that Renoir would know, probably very close to him. You can see in the bottom corner, this is a preview of another painting we'll look at where we will also see Madame Fournice, but we have again the whole range of colors here. I have two versions of this painting. I believe the color is a little bit more correct in the right and the composition is a little bit easier to see in the left, but it's noted with this that even though this is a painting that's was painted in 1879, it seems like something we would even see today. Unfortunately, the woman would probably have a cell phone in her hand rather than just being rested on by her head, as you can see. Again, this is the type of painting we see around 1879 from Renoir, very relaxed, again showing the people around him this kind of wealthy elite that you would see in society, but he's still using this kind of technique as well. Luncheon of the Boating Party, as it says, shown in the 7th Impressionist exhibition, also purchased by Paul Durand-Ruel, a very famous art dealer who helped many of the Impressionists, including Renoir, establish their career. He had shops not only in Paris, but he also had a gallery in London, and it should be noted that when the first Impressionist exhibition was occurring, Renoir was already selling work with Durand-Ruel in London. Again, his reputation was pretty well getting established even early on. When we look at the socialite group, we have a couple people of note. In the right corner, sitting backwards in the chair, is Gustave Caillebotte, again the man I mentioned earlier from the Impressionist exhibition. In the left corner is a woman who we will talk about much more later. That woman will, of course, go on to be Renoir's wife and the mother of his 3 children. Around 1880, here's a painting. This painting is called On a Cliff. I think it's a wonderful example of maybe where Renoir is in terms of his temperament and ideology. He's kind of having a crisis when it comes to what he's thinking he wants to do with his career. And again, he's making much more money selling realistic type of work rather than impressionistic work. And he starts to really wonder what he really wants to do with his art, whether doing this impressionist technique is even worth pursuing, or whether he should just abandon it and pursue kind of more of a classical view of painting. It's from this point forward that he actually begins traveling. He takes a little journey around Europe, going also to North Africa,